Imagine working your whole life to build something from scratch. Late nights, broken deals, endless risks, and then one day, it's all gone. Not because of the economy, not because of a bad investment, but because your own son gambled it away at a casino. Yeah, that's my story. And if you're thinking, that sounds like a nightmare, trust me, it was worse. You see, I always believed my son would carry on the family business. That was my dream. Build something strong, pass it on, and finally rest knowing the future was safe. But life has a cruel sense of humor. He didn't just fail to take care of it, he put everything I built on the line and lost it all in one night. Now, you might wonder, how does a father even process that? Anger? Betrayal? Heartbreak? Honestly, all of the above. But before I tell you how it ended, let me take you back. Because to understand the crash, you need to know how high the climb was. I wasn't born with money. I came from a tiny apartment where the fridge was always half empty. My father? He was a factory worker, tough as nails, but never had much. So when I started my business, it wasn't just about money. It was about proving to myself that I could break the cycle. I opened a small repair shop. Nothing glamorous, just busted engines, grease on my hands, and a heart full of stubbornness. Slowly it grew. One shop turned into three. Three turned into a company with employees who relied on me to feed their families. That was my pride. Not the cars, not the money, but the people who trusted me. And when my son was born, I swore to myself, he'll never live like I did. He'll have everything I didn't. I thought I was setting him up for success, but maybe I was setting him up for disaster. Here's the thing, when you grow up with nothing, you fight like hell for every scrap. But when you grow up with everything, sometimes you don't even know the value of it. My son never knew what it felt like to go hungry. He never had to choose between paying rent or buying groceries. If he wanted the newest sneakers, they were on his feet by the weekend. And don't get me wrong, I don't regret giving him a good life. What father would? But sometimes I think I gave him too much. While I was fixing engines and negotiating contracts, he was living like a prince. Expensive schools, private tutors, vacations. He had the golden ticket. And I thought, this is how it should be. He'll take what I built and make it bigger. But he didn't inherit my hunger. Instead, he inherited my money and a taste for risk. Casinos, poker tables, online betting. What started as just for fun quickly turned into something darker. And I, blinded by love, didn't see it until it was too late. It was a Friday night when the phone rang. You know that feeling, when the call already feels wrong before you even answer. That was it. Dad, I messed up. Those 3 words froze me. He told me he had borrowed money against the business, my business, to double it at the casino. He promised me he had a system, that it was a sure thing. But by the time he called, it was gone. Every cent. I laughed at first, not because it was funny, but because I thought it couldn't be real. My son wouldn't do that, right? Except he had. I drove to the casino that night. The lights were blinding, the music deafening. People cheering at slot machines while my entire life's work disappeared into their pockets. Standing there, in that sea of noise and smoke, I realized I wasn't just fighting a bad bet. I was fighting my son's addiction. When I first looked him in the eye after that night, I didn't even see my son. I saw a stranger. My hands were shaking. Part of me wanted to yell. Part of me wanted to just collapse on the floor. Do you have any idea what you've done? I asked. He couldn't even look at me. His shoulders slumped, his voice barely a whisper. I thought I could fix everything. I thought I'd win it back. That's the thing about gamblers. They always think the next hand will save them. But all it ever does is dig the hole deeper. For days, I didn't speak to him. I'd sit at the kitchen table, staring at the bills, the contracts, the wreckage of 30 years of my life. Employees called me, worried. Some already knew what had happened. And every time the phone rang, It was another piece of my pride breaking. But silence wasn't going to fix anything. The question wasn't what he did. The question was, what do I do now? I had two choices: let the business die or fight like hell to keep it alive. And if there's one thing life taught me, it's that I don't know how to quit. So I started making calls. Banks, old partners, even rivals. I swallowed my pride and asked for help. Some laughed, some said no, but a few, just a few, believed in me enough to give me another chance. Meanwhile, I made a decision about my son. He wasn't getting away with just an apology. No, if he wanted to be part of this family, he was going to rebuild what he destroyed brick by brick. So while I fought to keep the company breathing, he worked the shop floor for the first time in his life. Grease on his hands, sweat on his forehead. No luxury, no shortcuts, just hard, dirty work. It was a start, not forgiveness, not yet, but a start. At first, he hated it. You could see it on his face every morning, dragging himself out of bed, standing in the workshop with oil-stained overalls, surrounded by men who'd been doing this their whole lives. They didn't treat him like the boss's son. They treated him like what he was, a rookie who'd never turned a wrench in his life. He cut his hands, burned his fingers, got yelled at for messing up simple tasks. And you know what? I didn't protect him. Not anymore. Because protecting him was how we ended up here in the first place. One night, after a 12-hour shift, he sat at the dinner table, staring at his calloused hands. He looked at me and said, "Dad, I never knew it was this hard." And for the first time, I saw it, something real in his eyes. Not arrogance, not excuses, just humility. It didn't fix the money. It didn't erase the betrayal. But it was the first step toward him becoming the man I always hoped he'd be. Slowly, things started to change. The employees, at first angry, distrustful, saw him sweating alongside them. They didn't forgive overnight, but respect isn't built in a day. Meanwhile, I hustled harder than ever. Meetings in the morning, shop work at night, paperwork at 2 a.m. I was running on fumes, but I could see the business slowly crawling back to life. And my son? He was changing too. He stopped hanging around casinos, stopped calling those so-called friends who cheered him on while he lost everything. Instead, he came to me with ideas, real ideas, on how to modernize the shop, how to bring in younger customers. For once, he wasn't just taking, he was giving. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a fairy tale. We still argued. I still doubted him. Trust, once broken, takes years to repair. But for the first time in a long time, I saw hope. The turning point came when a major client walked into the shop. They remembered the old reputation of our business and our fall from grace. I was nervous, expecting them to walk out, expecting the final nail in the coffin. But my son stepped forward, confident, calm, and, most importantly, knowledgeable. He explained the improvements we'd made, the systems we put in place, how we were ready to serve their needs. And you know what? They believed him. They signed the contract. I couldn't help it, I smiled. Not because the business was saved, but because my son had grown. He had learned the value of hard work, the price of mistakes, and the weight of responsibility. We didn't erase the past. That night at the casino, the money lost, the trust broken, all of it stayed with us. But it became a lesson, not a life sentence. I realized something crucial. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones we love. And sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who teach us the hardest lessons. So here's the takeaway from my story. Mistakes can destroy, but they can also teach. Trust can be broken, but it can also be rebuilt. And kids, well, they might mess up in ways you never expect, but love, patience, and tough lessons can sometimes save them and the things you care about most. If you've ever had a moment where someone you love nearly destroyed everything you worked for, you know this feeling. And if you learned something from my story, I'd love to hear it. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to hit that like button if this story hit home, and subscribe if you want more real-life, jaw-dropping stories like this one. Life doesn't come with a manual, but sometimes a story like this is the next best thing. Thanks for watching, and remember, hold your loved ones close, but never forget the lessons that money, mistakes, and hard work can teach.